Welcome back to Almost a True Crime Podcast, a product of Bitch Pack Media. We are your hosts, Taryn and Madison. Listener discretion is advised due to the mature content and the amount of cuss words we say. You've been warned.
Hey guys.
What's up? Welcome back.
It's Friday.
It is Friday. We're back to getting our shit together.
Madison got her shit together, so I didn't have to get my shit together.
But I also didn't do a one shot last week.
Oh, yeah. So you know what?
We're
mediocre at best, per usual.
We don't promise much.
Oh my God, I forgot to tell you, and I wanted to tell you live on the air.
What?
My youngest sibling, Lucian,
Yes.
told me that we have 2 fan clubs at the local Clay High School.
What?
A group that is obsessed with the podcast, and then a group that thinks I'm hot.
I was going to say, I know the next one has nothing to do with me. I can feel it in my bones.
I'm like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, well, you know, there are, like, some of them really like the podcast and think you're funny, but then they wanted to see a picture.
Oh, no.
I'm like, well, also let them know I am a full-on catfish.
Yeah.
Today is an exception.
Yeah, you look
guys,
really good in
guys
person
are
today.
missing out, but that's only because I'm going out in public, like outside of the grocery store.
Yeah, you're going out.
I drove my car yesterday on the expressway. It's like, I don't know the last time I drove myself on the expressway in my vehicle.
Isn't that funny? I thought the same thing. I was over there not that long ago, and I was like, I can't remember the last time I drove to the fucking mall.
Literally, that was me yesterday. I'm like, this is so fun. I feel like I'm on a road trip. It was sunny. I had my windows down, my music going. I'm like, wow, I love driving.
I hate driving.
I love to drive. Oh, I love driving. Sometimes. Only when it's nice out.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had to tell you.
If you don't listen to Lady and the Countess, last
Which
week
you
was
should.
a full disaster because we had a surprise party.
For me.
For Taryn. We threw a surprise party for Taryn last weekend, which I knew would derail the whole next week, but I couldn't really say anything.
Right, because it was a surprise.
It was a surprise. And then I was also very tired, like very, very tired this week, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, I felt like I had to tape my eyes open at work from, like...
I swear, you have texted me at least once a day. I'm so tired for the past, 5 days.
Because I couldn't put into words how tired I was to convey to people that, I don't think I'm okay. And then, so I didn't get together a one shot because first of all, I didn't have the energy to look one up.
Yeah.
And I knew I wouldn't have the energy to record it. I'm like, I just want to do one.
Yep.
Well, I forgot that,
It was not a week for work.
I started taking, an actual dose of Zoloft because I had only been taking half to get me started on it.
Oh, yeah.
So I switched to, a full-ass dose this week, and that's what was making me so fucking tired. So I'm not taking any today. I'm going to take it at night.
Yes, that's what I always did.
Because I can't live my life like that.
I feel like the first time I started any kind of antidepressant, I took it in the morning, and it made me really nauseous.
Yeah.
So I've just always been in the habit of taking anything like that at night, because then
See, I felt nauseous on Monday, but also I drank 87 twisted teas.
Still, Monday I was like, I didn't do anything Monday.
No.
Sunday I had to go to that football game, and then Monday I was like, what do you want me to do around the house? He said, just relax.
Okay, great.
I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Will do.
And I probably took 3 fucking naps.
Yeah, no. So that didn't occur to me that it was weird. And then I was like, oh, this all actually makes
as soon
sense.
as you said that, I'm like, absolutely, that's it.
So that was that.
We're not making excuses. We're just telling you what it is.
It's not an excuse. I'm just telling you why.
I keep going to look at a camera.
We're not recording
There's
today.
no camera.
We also didn't record last week because I didn't push the button, I guess. I don't know.
Whatever, dude.
I was really, really hurting. You don't have to worry about that for a while because we're recording a 3-parter for you today.
So I hope you love Madison's voice. My commentary.
I feel like I have the worst voice on the planet.
Oh, no, I think mine is.
I don't think so.
I hate my voice.
I don't believe you.
I don't listen to my own voice.
That's true.
I love to talk because I don't hear it.
So if you're on the Patreon, parts 2 and 3 will be up right away, but I'm not going to edit them because there's just no way I'll have time.
Fuck no.
So they'll be unedited in their full glory for you if you can't wait. And also, I'm just going to preface this by saying I don't know the lengths of what these are going to be.
Yeah,
because I think
not sure.
If I'm guessing part 1 is going to be kind of short, and you're going to be like, that's kind of really fucking short. And part 2 is going to be kind of long. We're going to be like, damn. But then part 3 is also kind of short, but there's no way to fuse them into 2 to make any type of sense.
So take what you get and don't throw a fit.
I feel like they're used to it by now.
Right,
like,
absolutely.
There's actually nothing to complain about.
The fact that we're giving you a multiple parter is a
the bar
miracle
is on the floor
in and of itself.
I'm actually very excited for this, though.
Me too. I don't know anything about this.
So I'm doing Waco. And I'm doing this because we had last weekend, we didn't do anything last weekend, like as a family. I think I was off on Saturday. Well, not last week, the weekend before last weekend was your party. And there was a show on Showtime about Waco, or like it was like a dramatization, like fiction type of show. And we spent all weekend watching that. And I was like, this is really fucking good.
Sometimes I love when that is what I do with my weekend. Watch one full TV show.
One whole show. We finished it Sunday night at like 8 o'clock.
I love that shit.
It was so good.
Like everyone just resumes their positions on the couch the next day. And I love that. Phil does not love doing that kind of thing.
We love it. Well,
Phil can watch 2 episodes max.
And he's like, what are we doing now?
Yeah, getting through Ozark was a task.
You're like, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, what do you mean? What else would you want to do for the next 8 hours?
This is it.
This is my work day.
We could start and finish it.
I know. He's not into that.
I love starting the first episode knowing I am not going to have to wait at all to figure out what happens here.
Yeah, because
the answers are all right there.
Rolling through. Same.
Speaking of brief derailment, I can't wait for Vanderpump.
Dude.
This is when it's getting real.
I can't wait.
Me and my mom are going to switch from rewatching to watching live.
You have to.
And we'll pick back up on the
God,
rewatch
I
later.
wish we recorded Lady and the Countess after.
I know. I was like, I wonder if we could.
There's no way.
There is no way. But I was thinking, like, I wonder if we could, for like a month, release on Fridays. Just so that we could fit that in.
Did you also see that Peacock is going to release an like an extended uncut version of it?
Oh yeah.
So I will be needing that login.
You have your own profile.
Oh yeah, you're fucking right. I always forget to use that.
You have it already because we watch it on there, and it's me, you, and my dad have our own profiles.
I really love that.
It's great. I wonder if we can watch at the same time though. We're gonna have to really link up and decide who's watching when.
Well, I'll probably watch it.
You'll
on
watch
Hulu.
it before. Oh, that's right. You have Hulu Live.
Yeah, they just charged me today, so now I have to keep using it.
Now you're committed.
I'm like, son of a bitch.
My finances are in absolute shambles.
Same.
But like, not because I don't have any money, but because I have so much floating around. Like,
yeah, you've got a lot.
You guys owe me money. My mom owes me money. I have 2 things on my credit card that like shouldn't be there. Like, it's just so much fucking shit. Like, I need to figure out what actually, because I feel like I do owe more money than I think I do personally. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, none of this is actually on here. It's my delusion coming through.
It happens to the best of us.
My hyperfixation right now is getting a new mattress. I'm just focused on getting new. Now I'm like, well, I bet they'll have a 4th of July sale. I'm like already bumping up my timeline months. Guys, if you want a new mattress, Sleep Number was having a bomb ass sale this week, and I like just can't afford it right now. But 50% off.
That is such a good
And
sale.
I'm all about financing though. Numbers don't mean anything to me.
I know. I will never understand why my husband wants to constantly pay like full price.
No.
Just open up. You have great credit.
Put it in a monthly payment for me.
I was using his credit card at Old Navy, and I almost just applied for the card just to get like the $40 off. I was like, I have no annual income. Yeah, I know. He absolutely would have.
What's your annual income? $0. I'm like, okay, well, we're just going to take this back road. We're not going to run this.
Like, I should just start saying that. I don't have a job. Don't offer me this bullshit.
Yeah, I don't have a job. What were we just talking about? I feel like I wanted to finish a thought and I don't remember.
Your Sleep Number.
Oh, yeah. It's like $5,000, a little over $5,000 for the mattress and the basic, like with the feet and the head and everything, which is really what I want.
How great would that be?
But I'm like, that is an insane amount of money.
$5,000.
But then underneath, it says 36-month financing, $142 a month. I'm like, oh,
basically free.
it's literally free. It's literally how my brain works. Where I'm like, well, yeah,
I know,
sure.
but now I'm like interest. interest? Is it
That
zero
counts,
interest?
That's counting the interest. It's 3% interest, and they factor it in because I thought the same thing.
Into your payment?
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
$142, $5,000 plus the interest it'll accrue.
That's really not bad.
No, so I'm gonna get one. I need to stop. I need to get off the internet.
I really want a new bed, but I want to get like a memory foam, like bed in a box, one of those, like a purple mattress.
Yeah. My parents have a purple mattress. You want to go test it out before you leave?
Yes. Aren't they the greatest? And I need like a
It's really
cold
comfortable.
mattress.
Me too.
I sweat like a motherfucker.
I'm a hot ass sleeper.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're just shooting this shit. We could talk about this after before you leave.
Didn't hang out 2 days ago. Yeah. It's just never enough.
Okay, part 1. So part 1 is going to be David Koresh and sort of like the background of the Branch Davidians. Part 2 will be Waco, as you know it, and part 3 is going to sort of be like what happened afterwards.
I literally have not one clue. All I know is that it was like a standoff situation. For
I didn't know
time.
either until we watched that show. I'm like, this is actually very interesting. If you watch the show, though, and you should because it's really good, and I think they just came out with the 2nd season of what happens after Waco, it does show the Branch Davidians in a really good light.
Is that like a cult?
Ish.
Oh.
This is one of those cases where the more time that passes, the worse it looks on what happened. So it's like...
You know who put Waco on my radar that made me think like I should look into this?
Who?
Tiger King.
Really? I don't remember that on Tiger King.
Because he said something about if they come to take his animals away, it's going to be another Waco. Which probably shouldn't say that.
No, you probably should. But it makes that tracks.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Joe
But-
Exotic, baby.
Like the whole thing is like, should you feel sorry for them? Should you not? And like the more time that passes, I think people do have a lot of sympathy for what happened. But he wasn't a great person. So it's very conflicting. You'll understand at the end of this why this is all.
Okay.
So if you are familiar with Waco and you think what happened was perfectly fine and you don't love the Branch Davidians, you probably don't want to watch that show because they do sort of make you feel sorry for what happened there. Okay, so David Koresh. He was born Vernon Wayne Howell. He was born to a 14-year-old Bonnie Clark and a 20-year-old Bobby Wayne Howell.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's an age gap I don't care for.
No.
He was born on August 17th, 1959 in Houston, Texas. Before Koresh was even born, his father met a different teenage girl and abandoned Bonnie. So he didn't know his dad at all. He just took off immediately. And I think after this, Bonnie Sue moved in with a boyfriend who was just like not the greatest person. He was like, I think they said he was like an alcoholic and he might have like beat David. I'm just going to call him David. I'm never going to refer to him as Vernon because sometimes they do and it just gets confusing for me.
Yeah.
Either way, in 1963, she takes off with this boyfriend and she leaves David to be raised by her mother for a while. Which I feel like
doing that.
So I feel like that was very common.
The time, yeah. They're like, scratch this.
You
Not
do
my
this.
thing. You take over.
You did such a great job with me.
Yeah.
I feel like you should do
what
this.
the fuck? Why didn't I do that?
Just drop your kid.
Like, you know what? Not into it.
I need
just
some,
joking.
I
I
need
love
some
my
space.
child.
So he lives with his grandmother for a while. His mom does end up coming back around the time he's like 7 with her new husband, Roy Heldeman, I think, and they had another son, Roger, in 1966, who doesn't come up anymore after that. But she didn't like abandon him forever. She did come back like when she figured her shit out. She like had a husband, another
She had
kid.
to figure herself out.
She's like, I'm going to come back now.
Well, you know.
So combined with all of that going on for David, he wore huge glasses. And he was dyslexic. So they put him in special education classes. So just like not a great time for David at all. And they would call him Vernie, and he hated it.
Oh.
That is a terrible nickname.
Vernie.
Vernie. So he ended up dropping out of school during his junior year. He said like his childhood was just extremely lonely, which I can imagine being. He was raised for a while by his grandma, which can't be very fun. I had fun grandparents, but not everyone else did.
Right.
He spent much of his childhood playing musical instruments and studying the Bible, which developed into an obsessive.
And there it is.
Therein lies the issue. By age 12, he had memorized and interpreted the entire New Testament.
That is so crazy.
Wild.
I always said, like, I thought that would be something interesting to do. Like, not even for, like...
Yeah.
Just...
For funsies.
Yeah. To read some like fiction, fantasy fiction. Just joking.
I couldn't tell you one thing from the Bible.
Dude, me and Phil go back because I have a lot of Bible knowledge.
You do.
And he
it's
like
impressive.
Thinks it's just so and he'll try to argue with me. I'm like, motherfucker, I grew up in church.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
I know the Bible.
See, I don't. And it's so funny when people like bring stuff up like, oh, like that. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. Not a fucking clue.
Well, I know a lot about the Bible.
I put at around age, and then I didn't put an age, but I think I want to say 17, just from obsessively looking this up. At around that time, David became a born-again Christian at a Southern Baptist church, but he disagreed with their teachings and joined his mother's denomination, the Seventh-day Adventist church.
Yep.
Are you familiar with such? Mm-hmm. So, if you're not, because I wasn't, and this isn't the greatest explanation either, but the Seventh-day Adventist church revolves around Saturday being the holy day, and that God created everything in 6 days instead of 7. And its emphasis is on the imminent second coming of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And basically the idea that, like, if you are not saved, you're going to die.
Correct. You're
going to wipe everyone off the earth, those who are saved. Like, there is no, like, middle. It's rapture and everyone else is going to suffer. Mm-hmm. Which is, like, great thing to, like, teach children. Feel like
how terrifying.
I
was so scared of the devil. I think that fear is still in me, honestly. I'm constantly like,
that's so scary.
I might get possessed one day.
Like, can you imagine being like 7 or something and being like, if you don't make it with me, your parents, because we're perfect,
always see the TikToks where like every night going to bed, I had that fear that if I forgot to pray for one person, they were surely going to hell. Like, yep, for sure. And now we were just Christian.
Yeah.
And I was still scared.
Imagine being in this shit. Mm-mm. So David was seen as overbearing by other congregants, constantly attempting to convert them to his interpretations of religion. So he's like already trying to like take over. It was at this church that he starts to get in trouble. He starts to set his eyes on the pastor's daughter, who is 12.
Oh, for crying out loud. How old is he at this point?
At this point, he's like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
So
too far. Much too far.
That's not legal.
So he says he prayed for guidance, and he says when he opened his eyes back up, he saw the Bible open to Isaiah 34:16, stating that
What if I could recite it to you?
I would unrecord, press that button, and just be done for the day if you knew exactly what the fuck was going on. Anyway, that stated that none should want for her mate. So he's like now convinced himself, like, this is a sign from God that we should be together.
Oh.
Like, I'm supposed to have her.
Oh.
So he approaches the pastor and he tells him, he's like, listen, God wants me to take your daughter and make her my wife. I saw the sign, like, this is for
God
real.
wants me to statutory rape your daughter.
Yes. Well, the pastor's like, okay, I love Jesus as much as anyone else, but that's not what's going to happen here. That's a hard no.
God's my boy and all, but like,
we
ain't getting down like that.
So he threw him out of the church. David continued to pursue the girl, and the pastor ended up having
How do you pursue a 12-year-old?
Fuck if I know.
Buy her coloring books? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know. The pastor ended up having to expel him from the church. Like, you have to, like, actually be done from here forever, from all of it. In 1981, when he was 22, David, he's still going by Vernon at this point. He goes by Vernon for a really long time, actually. Moved to Waco, Texas, where he joined the Branch Davidians, which is a splinter group of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Church. Benjamin Roden, who died in 1978, had originated the branch group in 1955 with new teachings that were not connected with the original Davidians. I can't really tell the difference. I tried. They seem pretty much the same. Basically, he called his members to a pure life and promised that Christ would return soon after the members reach a state of moral maturity. He's like, he's going to come back when we're all ready.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds very culty.
Yes. After Benjamin Roden died, it was up in the air who would take over, his son George or his wife Lois.
Well, it can't be a woman.
Well, no. Well, I guess not take over, but more of like, who is going to get the allegiance of all these people?
Right.
Like, who are they going to flock to? Well, Lois did end up taking over, and one of the big reasons it worked out for her was because she brought in a young Vernon Wayne Howell to help appeal to everyone. Because he's like young, cool, hip. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Lois had David play guitar and sing in church services at the Mount Carmel Center, which is the sect's headquarters outside of Waco. Sect, S-E-C-T.
I'm like, what?
Sect.
Sex headquarters?
No, sect.
What is that?
Sect. David Thibodeau, in his 1999 book, A Place Called Waco, speculated that David had a sexual relationship with Lois, the widow of Benjamin Roden.
He likes 12-year-olds. So.
Well, yeah, and she was in her late 60s.
She's not a type.
No, but that was like the rumor going around of like how he got into all of this shit.
Who knows?
Koresh eventually began to claim that God had chosen him to father a child by Lois, who would be the chosen one. Like I said, Lois is 60. There's no children to be had.
Yeah, what?
For a woman of her age. And if there is, it is certainly the second coming of Christ.
Oh, for sure. That's
that is some magic.
Like we said, 25, our eggs start dying.
That's it. That's all you have. In 1983, Lois allowed David to begin teaching his own message, which is why they started to think that he was sleeping with her. Like, how are you already getting like to teach your own shit?
Running the show.
Yeah, so he had his own message called The Serpent's Root, which caused controversy in the group. I read an excerpt of a book about this, and like people were captivated by him.
The Serpent's Root.
Yes.
Sounds very devilly.
Doesn't it? He read them the first 5 entries, then he went to Israel with Lois, and then returned and gave the last 2 readings. So there were 7 readings of The Serpent's Root, and he taught all of them. People who listened to him said, like, he just made the scripture come alive. Like, people loved him.
Yes, captivating.
Yes, he was like, he kept saying, like, he goes on to say, like, he is the second coming of Christ, and people, like, believed it. They're like, yes, that is true.
The amount of men
who
that have convinced these people.
I know.
I'm like, what? You can't all be it, guys.
No, not all of you.
You have to start, being logical.
Maybe you're Noah. Maybe you're something else. There are other things going on.
Just like a reincarnate apostle.
Yeah. You don't got to be the big dog.
Right.
And not all of you can be.
Play the supporting role once in a while.
There's something to be said for a good supporting role.
I wouldn't know. Main character energy over here.
In 1983, David also starts to allege that he had the gift of prophecy. So he's saying, like, God is speaking through me. God has chosen me to relay his message from above. He's, like, reaching his full form of who he ends up as right here. So all of this to say, Lois's son George was not a fan of this man. He just strolled in, took his father's legacy. Yeah. George has nothing. They were like beefing to be in charge. Like, no, I'm the second coming of Christ. He's like, no, I am the second coming of Christ. Lois's son George Roden intended to be the group's next leader and considered David an interloper. He was basically like,
I love that word, interloper.
An interloper.
What does it even mean, actually?
I don't know.
A fraud?
Here we go. Interloper.
Because I want to start using it as an insult.
A person who becomes involved in a place or situation where they are not wanted or considered not to belong.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's a great insult.
You interloper.
Someone goes to a bar you like don't want them to be at.
You're
like
a fucking interloper. What are you doing here?
You're interloping.
Oh my God. Yes.
Involved
I'm about to
in a
write it in my
situation.
fucking notes app so I don't forget.
That's really funny. What a great insult.
I know. I love it.
So he's basically like, I don't know who you think you are, strolling in here, taking over my family's gig. Like, this is my thing.
But I ain't about it, so.
No. So this is like a full-on rivalry. But the rivalry does sort of take a spot on the back burner when God tells David to marry 14-year-old Branch Davidian Rachel Jones.
So he's still on that one.
He is. So he marries Rachel Jones in 1984. The two go on to have 2 children, Cyrus and Star, but I don't know when she has them. I couldn't quite figure that out, and I forgot to double check after I got all the way done with this. So, things are okay. David gets married to this young woman. Things seem like they're okay. Then a fire breaks out at Mount Carmel. And it caused like $500,000 worth of damage to like an administrative building. So like destroys the building and all the like the papers and shit inside. And George is convinced that David set this fire on purpose because they're enemies. He's like, you are sabotaging me, and you just burnt all my shit down. And David was like, okay, well, no man set that fire. It was a judgment of God, so.
So he did.
Certainly so. He's like, okay, well, God burnt that down.
You would know that
Yeah.
if you were the real second coming of Christ.
Well, George told David that mostly everyone agreed with him, and he had their full support to chase David off the premises at gunpoint. He's like, well, everyone actually believes me. So
Everyone secretly hates you. They think you're a less hot version of me.
That's basically what happened.
This is so great.
Isn't it? We're also drinking mimosas. It's 11. Mimosas with pineapple juice is uncontested.
Elite. Like,
So good.
great. I love pineapple.
Okay, where are we at? Okay, so David gets chased off the premises at gunpoint because George tells him, like, well, you're wrong and everyone thinks you're wrong. So David and about 25 people decide to follow him. They packed up and moved to East Palestine, Texas, which is funny because, not funny, but isn't that where that train derailed in Ohio?
Yes.
I remember thinking, I don't know how to say this. So that's like
How else would you say Palestine?
I don't know. Is it pronounced Palestine?
Palestine?
I don't know.
Palestine.
Is it pronounced like the country? Because Palestine's a country, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Israeli-Palestinian conflict muffin.
What's that from?
YouTube.
So they pack up and move 90 miles away from Waco.
If you guys have never watched the muffin video on YouTube, please do it. It is such a early 2000s thing. And it's so fucking funny. You've seen it, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Glass. Well, I'm going to have to watch it later.
Oh, shit. Okay. 90 miles away from Waco. They're chased out. Mm-hmm. This was allegedly not an easy time for David and his followers. They were living in vans, tents. Like, they were not, like, set up anywhere. I found an article of a reporter who visited them in Palestine.
All of this is so culty.
It is. It's very conflicting.
Because it is an actual organized religion.
Yes. And I don't know. It's referred to as a cult. It's a thing. This is
like
considered a cult. But the argument is, was it really?
Yes.
Okay, great. So anyways, I found this article, and a lot of these articles were behind paywalls, which...
So fucking annoying.
It is. Like, the local ones.
Yeah, always.
So, like, don't judge me. But if you get on your phone and you click it real fast and you put it in airplane mode before the page loads, it can't load the paywall because you don't have data.
Oh my God, you are a scammer.
I did scam information. I couldn't find any information about their time away from Waco except this one article. And I was like, I'm stealing it. I don't care. I'm sorry. I can't. Because I would do it if they didn't make it impossible to cancel.
Exactly. You know how long it took me to figure out how to cancel the New York Times?
It took me like a month to cancel that Sacramento bee from when I did Scott Peterson. Mm-hmm. It took so long.
I can't remember.
Can we offer you a reduced rate? I'm like, I live in Ohio.
Some kind of like Chicago Tribune or something.
Yeah, I'm like,
bro,
I just couldn't. If you make it easy to cancel, I will pay for your...
Absolutely.
I'll pay for a full month cancel. I don't care. Don't make me call you on the phone.
Because then you're just going to get $2.99 from me every fucking month.
No. So I found this article. They said they were living in literal boxes. They reported the 5 by 7 foot plywood boxes contained small wood burning stoves bought on sale from Payless Cashways.
Well, that seems like really unsafe.
Does it?
First of all, you're living in boxes with
a wood burning stove.
Yeah, I know.
The exact material your home is made of.
One fucking spark comes out and y'all are done.
It said there was room for a few adults to stand and a loft for sleeping. The light came from kerosene lamps. There was no insulation. Each box had a bucket for a bathroom, and they would put hot water bottles at their feet to try and stay warm. This is Texas, so it's not...
How cold can it be getting?
I think it does get kind of cold. I think like 40s for Texas is like freezing. Crazy cold. Because when we went like September or October, November, something like that for a funeral.
Oh, yeah.
And we packed like summer clothes.
Well, that's because we're from the Midwest.
I know, and we were down there, and we were like t-shirts, no socks, hanging outside, and they were like bundled.
Yep.
Like, it's very
Once it gets like past 65, I am in flip-flops.
100%.
Actually, it doesn't even matter the weather. Once it's past May 1st, I am in flip-flops.
We can't live like that. So about 20 children, 3 through 16, lived at that camp and went to the commune school led by Sherry Jewell, which now we're getting into like a cult type of area. Nice. School is usually held in a converted school bus without wheels near the meeting house. But because of the cold weather, the school moved indoors where there was a wood-burning stove. So like literally out in the wilderness. Chores were divided among camp members, the reporter said. Behind the meeting hall, a young man drew water from a makeshift water tower. There was an outdoor playpen made from slats made of tree bark. There was an umbrella for shade. They had like a tire swing. Like they were really just out here living. Mm-hmm. Willingly because of this man. Despite these rustic...
One thing I'm never going to do for any man is give up indoor plumbing.
Never.
You will never catch me shitting in a bucket for no man.
Don't ever invite me camping. I will laugh in your face.
Ooh, I can camp, not in a tent.
Yeah, no.
Camper camping, I'll do.
Yes, I'll do that. Don't invite me tent camping under any circumstance.
No.
Never.
Too exposed to the elements.
Yeah. So despite all of this, the camp they called it like a weird mixture of wilderness and modern living. Like they had a former airport shuttle bus. It was like, looked new. Like shiny, contemporary. And then they're like living right next to like a school bus with no wheels.
Right.
Like what's actually going on in here? Old couches were arranged in circles in the middle of camp for outdoor meetings. They had weightlifting equipment piled near handmade chin-up bars. They had a bunch of fucking cars like around the perimeter. They had one small log structure in the center of the camp that contained the only phone they had, which isn't that crazy because this is still the 80s. I can't imagine phones. You would have had more than one phone anyway. Mm-hmm. So Jones, one of the, I think Jones is Rachel's dad, Rachel Jones, who ended up marrying David. Rachel's family were branch Davidians long before David came around. Like they were lifelong Davidians.
Yeah.
So really, when he came around and he was like, I'm the second coming of Christ for the branch Davidians.
They're like, holy shit, this is it.
And he wants to marry your daughter. They're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Take her.
Yeah. So he's like, people did not care. He said, our heads are warm, but our feet are cold. Basically, like, we're fine. Like, we're a little cold, but this is what it should be.
Yes. We're doing what we should be doing.
Catherine Matson, a Davidian elder wearing a knit cap and a scarf, said outsiders do not matter to her. She said, I'm waiting for things to progress. I've searched all my life, and my life is pretty long, and I'm glad I finally found it. I just can't. David traveled across the country and really the world at this point. He went all over trying to recruit more followers over the 2 years that they were away from Waco. When he went to Israel, he had convinced himself, here we go, that he was the true Son of God reborn, and he was the modern reincarnation of the prophet Cyrus, which is why he named his son Cyrus. And people truly believed this. I can't understate how much this was truly believed. In the article from when they lived in the woods, the spokesman, Rachel's dad, said literally everyone had accepted that David had held some type of prophetic message. Prophetic?
Yeah.
Prophetic. Okay. They were like, no one had even questioned it.
No.
This is fact.
Yes. Taking everything he is saying for fact.
Yes.
From the Lord himself.
Absolutely.
Direct quotes.
This is for sure what's going on. Anyway, then Lois dies in 1986, and David and all the other people who decided to follow David started to wonder if they would ever be allowed back. Because Lois was really the only one who accepted David. And now that George is in charge, there's no way in hell David's allowed to come back. And they're not going to go anywhere without David. So then, in 1987, David catches wind that perhaps George Roden has exhumed a body on the grounds.
What?
Exhumed a body, because I think they buried each other. My lips are in fucking shambles.
Don't even get me started.
I think they buried each other at Mount Carmel.
Oh.
Their own graves. So George is like, listen, I was just moving the cemetery. I'm not digging up bodies. You need to calm down. But in David's mind, this is a whole religious thing.
Yeah.
So in David's mind, George has issued a challenge to resurrect the body, and whoever resurrects the body would be the new leader. So David's like, you motherfucker. So David's like, no, absolutely not. Nice fucking try. So he tries to get George arrested for digging up a body.
You want to bring the law into this now?
Yes, he did. He said, I'm fucking telling.
I am calling the police.
And the officials are like, we can't do anything about this unless you actually prove he dug up a body. So they were like, you need to like photograph him moving like a dead body. There's like, we're not doing anything without this. So David is like, if you're telling me if I photograph this man digging up this body, he will go to jail. And they were like, sure. And he was like, all right, well, let's fucking go. So he and some of his followers go guns blazing to Mount Carmel, allegedly just to get a photograph of the body that George had dug up, a body of the illegal exhumation. That's all they're there for. Well, George caught wind of David and his followers coming back to Mount Carmel, and a whole gunfight breaks out. George gets hit. George gets shot. The cops show up. Doesn't go David's way at all. Things have gone awry for David. David and his followers are actually put on trial for attempted murder.
Yeah, and like, way to put yourself on the radar, dumb shit.
Fuck. So they're put on trial for attempted murder. David explains why they went there. They went there to uncover very illegal happenings by George Roden. And they were acquitted. David's followers were acquitted, and David's trial was declared a mistrial. So nothing ever happened from that.
They weren't trying to murder him. They wanted to see him moving a body, and then, you know, George...
He's trying to prove he's the second coming of Christ, but I'm the second coming of Christ.
Don't you see the bigger picture here?
The murder is not important. That's not what we're talking about here. Then, in 1989, George Roden murdered a man. George murdered Wayman Dale Adair with an axe blow to the skull.
Holy fuck! He like murdered him.
Yes, because Adair stated his belief that he himself was the true Messiah.
Oh, Jesus Lord.
So Dale is like, no, I'm the true Messiah. George argued that Dale was actually sent by David to come and kill him, so that's why he had to kill Dale. He's like, well, no, David sent Dale here to kill me, so I had to kill Dale. He was actually declared insane and confined to...
There is a level of psychosis that goes into everyone that thinks they are the second coming of Christ.
Correct.
That is not a normal train of thought.
Not in the...
I actually want them all institutionalized because I don't want anyone walking around thinking shit like that.
Slightest.
That's scary.
Oh, this is actually going to be like a pretty decent sized episode.
Because I keep talking.
We have a lot to fucking say.
Stuff like this really gets me going.
Okay, so he was actually declared insane, and he was confined to a psychiatric hospital in Big Spring, Texas. So George Roden is gone. He is away.
So that fucking, what's it called?
What?
When you're an involuntary?
A 5150.
5150.
So that means that Mount Carmel was up for grabs fully. No one's there. George owed thousands of dollars in back taxes, so David and his followers raised enough money, and they bought back.
How are they raising money? Fundraisers, bake sales, what? Car wash?
That's the thing, is like they were normal functioning members of society. They weren't like recluses.
Oh, they did go out into society. Yeah. They just went back to their... Fuck that. How can you live both?
Don't know. So he filed a petition in California State Superior Court in Pomona on May 15th, 1990 to legally change his name, quote, for publicity and business purposes to David Koresh. On August 28th, 1990, Judge Robert Martinez granted the petition. So he goes by Vernon for a very long time. He's just now David Koresh. His first name, David, symbolized a lineage directly to the biblical King David, from whom the new Messiah would descend. Koresh is the biblical name of Cyrus the Great, a Persian king who was named a Messiah for freeing Jews during the Babylonian captivity. By taking the name of David Koresh, he was professing himself to be the spiritual descendant of King David, a messianic figure carrying out a divinely commissioned errand.
Wow. He really bestowed an honor upon himself.
He did. So now David is the true leader of this sect. He began solidifying his teachings. He began preaching the new light, quote, which allowed him to marry more than one woman, with the goal of fathering 24 children to sit on the 24 thrones surrounding God, as foretold in Revelation.
Oh my God. See, this is the shit that makes me, like, that's in the Bible?
Yeah, it can't be. I don't know. Many of the wives he chose were between the ages of 12 and 20. This is very obviously a legal issue to anyone outside of...
Yes, you cannot... First of all, you can't have more than one wife, and none of them can be underage.
Yeah, no. Which sounds like most of them were.
Yes.
One of his wives was a minor, Michelle Jones, who was his first wife's sister. So he married Rachel Jones's sister.
Oh my God.
Which, remember, they were a big Branch Davidian family anyway, so.
Wasn't weird.
So there's an investigation launched against them because of sexual abuse allegations by Texas Child Protection Services. There's a lot of
yes,
same sounding noises. Because you can't have children with people who are 14. You just can't legally do that. Despite all of his wives and all of the children there, the investigation really didn't turn up anything because David was very good at hiding things like this.
Well, I guess it works if those wives aren't speaking out, their parents aren't speaking out.
Yes.
It's what are they going to do?
They think this is fine.
Yeah.
They don't know any different. David Koresh had a man named David Thibodeau fake marry Michelle Jones because Thibodeau was much closer to her age, I think. So it didn't look as jarring as her having a 30-year-old husband, when they show up to investigate.
Yeah.
Because in Thibodeau's book, he said that David married Michelle Jones when she was 12, but I don't know how old she was at the time of the investigation. She might have been 16 or 17. I think David Thibodeau was 18. So it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was it was okay. Not okay, but. And David Thibodeau was played by Rory Culkin, Macaulay Culkin's brother in the show.
Oh.
And Rachel Jones is played by Julia Garner.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch this.
It's really good.
I love Julia Garner.
Where are we at? And Thibodeau is sort of important to this whole ordeal. He comes up a lot. He was really a direct student of David's, but he did come out and say that while he considered David a friend, David was certainly guilty of something. Mm-hmm. He was either a polygamist or he was guilty of statutory rape, probably both, he ends up saying. Mm-hmm. And while David Thibodeau's marriage to Michelle was supposed to be fake, he said that really drew him further into the cult because he said it settled him. Yeah. He's like, well, now I have a wife, even though it's fake. We got married. This is my wife.
He has a full connection.
Yeah, I misspoke. Michelle is played by Julia Garner. Rachel is played by the girl who played Superwoman on CW.
Oh, I didn't watch that show, but I know who you're talking about.
I only know her because she was on Glee.
It always comes back to Glee.
Always. Everything does. So they got married. And actually, Michelle is buried under Jones Thibodeau and not Koresh. Oh. Which I thought was interesting. And in the show, they really seem to like each other.
Yeah. To David, it's a fake marriage, but they both really had a... Yeah.
That's what I think.
It always starts out as a joke, but then you really secretly end up liking each other.
She's like, well, hold on. You're not 30 and crazy.
Yeah.
You're 18, kind of hot.
Be a thing.
You like Jesus as much as I do.
Yeah.
This could work. According to ABC News, former followers said women had to wear long blouses and no makeup or jewelry could be worn. They said David would tell them where to sleep and what food they could eat. Sugar, processed flour, and dairy products were forbidden. A former Davidian said he taught that we should not eat any dairy products. His reasoning was, well, dairy products are made from milk, which is baby food. Milk is what you drink when you're a baby, and we're adults now. He's like, that's not... I thought about not putting that in there. I'm like, I need to show how actually crazy everyone is.
God. Okay.
Sheila Martin, who moved to the compound with her husband and their 5 children in 1988, said it was fun as long as we were being obedient. She said if we weren't being obedient in the sense of, I went to the store, I bought something, it was being selfish, you're not allowed to do things like that. He would always let us know it wasn't right and what we should have done differently in front of everyone. Mm-hmm. He would publicly...
degrade everybody.
Yeah.
Big Manson vibes.
Yes. But undercover. Manson was obviously very unwell.
He was insane.
David appears to be
just a normal religious man. Yeah.
Former followers.
Mm-hmm. Followers. He got them followers.
Former followers said discipline was constantly administered. Joanne Vega, who was 6 years old when she left the compound, said she remembered being hit regularly, and as a kid, being disciplined was a 24/7 type of thing. She said there's nothing that you could do right, is how she felt. Nothing is good enough. You're raised in fear. Yeah. You're scared of everything. There were more instances of abuse disguised as punishments. One woman who fathered a son with David said she was so deep into this that she beat her child until he started to bleed. She said all the children were kept in line with a wooden spoon. Like, they all just beat all their children.
I used to get spanked with a wooden spoon.
Oh, my God.
Then it broke, so we had to switch to plastic.
Yeah, you had to switch it up. Survivors also came out and said that David would take children away from their mothers and give them to a different woman if he felt the child and the mother were bonding more than him and the child were bonding.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
This isn't your child anymore. So basically, nobody's child was their own. Everyone was a parent to all of these children. Mm-hmm. They could be taken away at any point.
Like a cult.
Like a cult. David then stated that everyone should practice celibacy, except him. Obviously. And he also dissolved all the marriages of everyone and said that the women should all be his wives. So you're all married to me now, and no one can have sex, but I can.
With any of you.
With any of you. One of the Branch Davidians said that David Koresh's justification for taking all the women for himself was theological. He's the one that had the power. He's the one that had the authority to give the seed. I can't.
I love that phrase.
He had the
Give
authority.
me your seed.
Adding that if David had sex with a woman, David would say that she was in the house of David. The whole thing.
Oh my God.
There were allegations from some of David's former followers that it wasn't just the adult women he wanted. He also pursued several of their daughters, which is, we already know this, some of whom were teens or even younger.
Yes, because he is a pedophile.
Correct. Kiri Jewell, who told the ABC News in a 2003 interview that her mother, Sherry, was one of David's wives, said she herself became David's youngest bride when she was just 10 years old.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Disgusting. She did later testify before Congress that David molested her at a motel, which, like, I'm sure he was just like, well, you're my wife.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life at Mount Carmel was Spartan and self-sufficient. Residents lived in a large 2-story compound that included a chapel, a gym, and a cafeteria. If you look up Mount Carmel, this place is huge. It looks like a high school. Like, it's big. The men slept in one place and the women and children slept in another. They were completely separated. The women did all of the cooking and the children were disciplined harshly. For the most part, the Davidians kept to themselves, and if some in Waco condemned them for being outsiders, others accepted them, or at least their business. So as many people who thought they were weird, there were people in town who liked them.
Yeah.
David went into town often, especially to music stores. He would buy guitars, amps, equipment.
I mean, because if these people aren't really going out and preaching what they're like,
Yeah.
it's easy to, you can make friends with people with different beliefs.
Yeah. That's what they're doing. They're like not going into
Especially
town.
if they're like going out, spending their money on small business, whatever.
Yeah.
You know? That's insane.
David was also briefly in a band made up of other Branch Davidians wearing t-shirts that read David Koresh / God Rocks. Great shirt. I honestly can't.
That's sweet merch, man. Like merch tables outside. God rocks.
Like, why? What's the fucking point? As leader of the Branch Davidians, David claimed he had cracked the code of the 7 seals in the book of Revelation.
See, I feel like Revelations is where people make their own interpretations of everything.
Shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with the book of Revelations, he said he predicted the events leading to the apocalypse. He's like, the 7 seals in the book of Revelations predict the events leading to the apocalypse, and I have figured them out. He told his followers that the Lord willed the Davidians to build an army of God. As a result, they started stockpiling weapons. Vega, the Davidian who left when she was 6, said David constantly told them that the end of the world was coming. They were the chosen people to survive because David was the son of God. She said they were taught to prepare for war and that the end of times, as predicted in the book of Revelation, were near. So remember, this is what they're all about.
Yes.
The Branch Davidians are like end of days.
Yes.
You need to focus on the end of days.
That's when you go to heaven. That's when you reach whatever.
So this is where it all goes wrong for the Branch Davidians and David. Not the child brides, not the sexual assault and abuse of children, but the guns.
Weapons.
The ATF catches wind that David and his followers are hoarding semi-automatic rifles. Well, allegedly before the guns, according to Texas Monthly, they were being looked at as early as spring of 1992 because of a package that had accidentally been opened. So a UPS package being delivered to the Davidians broke open, revealing empty grenade holes. It's like full of this shit.
Why are you getting that in the mail?
They had like a regular delivery man. This UPS man did an interview with ABC, and he's like said he harbored a lot of guilt because like if he wouldn't have alerted the ATF of that package, would this have even happened? Maybe not.
But what worse could have?
Fuck if I know. So he was like a regular delivery. Like they were constantly getting deliveries of weapons. So after that busted open, he figured out like, oh, I'm delivering weapons like every fucking day here. Mm-hmm. So the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, started investigating the Davidians and found receipts for deliveries of other ammo and arms, including black gunpowder and powdered aluminum that could be mixed to make homemade grenades, and devices for converting semi-automatic weapons into automatic weapons. No law prevented them from stockpiling weapons, even automatic ones, but you had to obtain a license and pay like a per weapon fee, and they didn't do any of that, and it was very expensive. I'm like 99.999% positive this is a felony now, but it sounds like back then you could have done something like this.
It's a felony to change a semi-automatic weapon to an automatic weapon.
Yes. And from what I was reading, it didn't sound illegal at this time. You just had to pay to do it, which I don't know.
To make an automatic weapon?
Yes, I don't know. If it was illegal, they wouldn't have had to go through all these loopholes.
I guess.
So the ATF began surveillance on Mount Carmel. On June 9th, 1992, the ATF opened a formal investigation, and a week later it was classified as sensitive, thereby calling for a high degree of oversight from both Houston and headquarters. So, like, actually, this is much bigger than I think we think it is. On July 30th, ATF agents David Aguilera and Skinner visited the Branch Davidians' gun dealer, Henry McMahon, because they had a gun dealer.
Henry McMahon.
What a name.
Sounds like a car dealer.
Doesn't it? No, he's dealing weapons. Mm-hmm. So he tried to get them to talk to David on the phone. David offered to let the ATF inspect the Branch Davidians' weapons and paperwork and asked to speak with Special Agent David Aguilera himself, but Aguilera declined. By December of 1992, agents had occupied a house across the street from the compound and were watching its residents closely, like undercover. Mm-hmm. This is the worst undercover operation of all time. They are immediately discovered.
Yeah, like they're fully aware.
Yeah, and the investigation included sending in an undercover agent, Robert Rodriguez, whose identity David learned immediately.
Right.
And chose.
It's not something people just happen upon.
No.
Like. Okay.
No. So David immediately knows this is an undercover cop, but he doesn't say anything until the standoff happens.
Oh no.
Which is like a baller move.
Oh my God.
So he just accepted him in. So Rodriguez and another man were posing as college students.
That's so scary. I could never be an undercover cop.
Me either.
I'm cracking immediately.
Yes. So these agents are posing as college students. They're 30. They have brand new cars. They don't have a set schedule where they're like pretending to go to
this
the
is
same
me
classes.
When I think that I could just still fit in.
They're driving like Lexuses and sitting at home all day. Like something is not adding up. So it's really no shock that David figured this out immediately.
They did not really do the greatest job of undercovering them.
Oh, the ATF obtained a search warrant on suspicion that the Davidians were modifying guns to have a legal automatic fire capability. Former Branch Davidian Mark Barolt claimed that David had M16 lower receiver parts, combining M16 trigger components with a modified AR-15 lower receiver. I don't know what the fuck any of that means.
Yeah, me neither.
According to ATF regulations, quote, constructive possession of an unregistered machine gun, regulated in the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. I took a lot of weird pauses there. Piece that sentence together how you will, because I don't know what the fuck it's saying.
Basically, he had all these parts that he's making automatic weapons.
So what I think they're getting at with this is constructive possession is a weird way to charge people with a broad crime. Like you can be charged with a drug crime if drugs are found around you, not even on you. That's constructive possession. So similarly, they didn't need to pin the guns on anyone because the gun just has to be accessible to you. Therefore, it's in your control.
Right.
I was kind of confused by that, but I think that's what they mean. Like, we know there's guns in there, and we don't have to figure out who is who because you have possession of these guns.
And you're all in the same vicinity.
So in order to obtain a search warrant, they use all of that info I just gave you to form an affidavit by Agent David Aguilera. The grenades being delivered, the stockpile of guns, the machine guns being heard. Did I put that in there yet?
No.
One of the farmers' neighbors claimed they could hear machine guns being like shot off in the back. I don't know why I didn't put that in there.
That's terrifying, first of all, if I heard that.
Yes. And the big one was all of those parts being delivered could convert these weapons to automatics.
Yeah.
Aguilera ends the affidavit with, I believe that Vernon Howell, a.k.a. David Koresh, and or his followers who reside at the compound known locally as the Mount Carmel Center are unlawfully manufacturing and possessing machine guns and explosive devices, which gives the ATF reason to obtain the search warrant. The affidavit is long. I linked it in the notes, but Aguilera does talk to several former members who had seen the guns. They obviously have been undercover. They talked extensively to the dealers, the UPS man. They know. They know what's all in there. It should also be noted, because I feel like the Branch Davidians get lost in this story, but they were full members of the surrounding community. Like I said, people knew them.
Yeah.
It was said that Sheriff Howell was his name, had told investigators, like, why do you not just go talk to them before you try and do this warrant? Like, they're not doomsday recluses. They're, like, out in public. Like, you can just go and they will probably just talk to you. You might not have to do this.
Like, they're not total, like, social
Psychos.
freaks.
Yeah, no. Like, we talk to them. You could just go talk to them if you wanted to. But the ATF obtained a search and arrest warrant for David and a few other named followers on the gun charges. The search warrant commanded a search on or before February 28th, 1993, in the daytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. The ATF made a claim that David was possibly operating a methamphetamine lab.
What?
To establish a drug nexus and obtain military assets under the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. Although the ATF's investigation focused on firearm violations, not on illegal drugs, the ATF requested assistance from the DEA and the Department of Defense, the DoD, citing a drug connection. The possible drug connection was nothing. It was related to nothing concrete.
But if you think that that's just a whole nother slew of dangerous people that they could be in cahoots with.
Basically, one of the deliveries wasn't related to guns or explosives.
So, drugs.
They thought the materials could be used to make drugs. Mm-hmm. A few former members had drug charges on their record. Yeah. When David took over the compound from George Roden, the people Roden was renting the compound to did actually have a meth lab there.
Oh,
so George Roden was running it out to people
very
making...
Ozark.
It is. David did report the meth lab in there and had the materials removed from the house. He was very forthcoming about that when they took the house back over. But now they're like, well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he kept some of it. They're really just...
Well, they need money for all these fucking weapons.
They were big arms dealers. Mm-hmm. Like, they would get a lot of guns and then they would sell those guns at gun shows. Right. That's how they made a lot of their money. They're really just building this into the biggest case they can. And I truly think this is the authorities' mistake. They turned something already completely insane into something already more insane when you just didn't have to.
Right. It didn't.
They amplified this to a crazy amount.
But at that, like, this is what, the 90s now?
Yeah, 93. That's part one, though.
I feel like the 70s, 80s, 90s is when cults were like big thing. They were doing like, this is after Manson. This is after.
But they don't care about the cult.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
They care about the guns.
Especially with them being in Texas, you would think it wouldn't be like.
Yeah, a whole ass thing.
Like, what are you scared of? You guys all have fucking guns.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely could have went about it in a different way. They're spooking them.
Yes. So they built up this whole case. They're making it bigger and bigger and bigger because I think they're having trouble getting the warrant. So they're just throwing all of this shit in there. And I truly, truly think that is where they went wrong. And in part two, you're going to see why I think that. And if you're on the Patreon, you can go to part two literally right now. Because we're stopping right here.
Yeah, this is interesting.
So that was the background. Part two is going to be Waco as you know it or as you have heard of it. It's going to be beginning to end of the standoff.
Is there tanks in Waco or did I make that up in my head?
We'll get there.
Oh, fuck yeah.
There's a bunch of shit.
All right, we
got to go because Taryn can't wait to hear part two.
And I have to pee. So.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at AlmostPod. If you want an additional episode every week, you can find us at Patreon at AlmostPod.
If you have a case you want us to cover, throw it in a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find merch and all other information at bitchpackmedia.com. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.